on the question of a final decision. Before getting into the matter of a final decision, it would benefit the individual concerned if he determined for himself what the decision was about. A final decision gives indication of a cessation of opportunities to make further decisions, the one in question being the last one to be made. What, in the life of man, could be accompanied by such a weighty situation in which he has to make a final choice and never get another chance afterwards? The very nature of the finality of the situation already makes many a man not give the matter much weight or consideration. It simply could not be that things can get to a point where there is no longer the possibility of a reversal, an opportunity to do over or experience something once again, even if the happening were to occur after the physical death of the one concerned. In other words, many a man would find it difficult to accept that in a world where things are seen to go around in cycles, there could be an end, a cessation in the cycling. There simply has to be the opportunity for the process, whatever it may be, to continue, even if in a changed and different form. This perception causes many not to take seriously the question of a final decision, where it concerns man and his fate as a creature in creation. The assertion that man must make a final decision causes many in this camp to scoff and to point to the fact that calls have been ringing out in the past through men, considered to be prophets and spiritual helpers, for millennia now, urging mankind to prepare themselves for the final decision, the time of a final decision, the end time, and yet generations of men have come and gone, and seem to keep coming and going. Why then should anyone put any stock in such assertions when they are made today? What would make the assertions or the situations at the time they are made any different from what has prevailed in the past? Those in this camp comprise men with a wide variety of perceptions in this matter. Their final conclusion, however, is that there is simply no sound reason to take such assertions seriously. Some even feel that the ones who continue to make such assertions are to be pitied and helped to see more clearly, lest they spend their existence on earth in some fanciful plane of existence rather than attend to things of immediate and real importance. That is one camp. The other comprises those who believe that there is need for a fateful decision, made now or at least before the end of the period after which it would have become too late for it. The utterances of many in this camp cause them to appear not to see or acknowledge the existence of cycles in the universe or creation, causing some in the camp of scoffers and those who do see cycles to immediately recoil from them and not consider their assertions more seriously than they might have otherwise. They are often seen as rigid and narrow-minded, and in opposition to science and traditional or conventional knowledge. They are seen as ones who have been blinded to the existence of logic and reason due to their obstinate and blind, often religious, faith. For this reason, they are not taken seriously, and if they were to make any valid points in their arguments, such are not even allowed to rise to a level where they can be considered and objectively examined. The adamantine nature of their efforts in the face of scoffers and superficial responses from others causes them to appear more and more like fanatics, and also closes them in further within their homogeneous world. These seemingly fanatical efforts on the part of the second group also cause the vanity of the first group, the scoffers, to grow, because they feel pandered to and chased after, as though they were people of some importance to the attainment of some ultimate goal. But this only makes them reject and run away from what is being called out to them by those who appear to them to be dupes of religion. They have even less respect for them as a result and consider them to be delusional and out of touch with reality, backward and unscientific. This further separates the groups. In their homogeneous world, those who wish to spread a word about the need to prepare for a final judgment, to make a final decision, develop further the sense of us against them, and refuse to listen to anything else but the interpretations that they have given to the warnings and admonitions in the scriptures or other writings, as well as to the events that they are able to witness or learn of in everyday happenings around the world. Narrow-mindedness therefore grows in both camps. Those in one camp, the ones who do not think that there is any higher governing order that they are supposed to heed, and which restricts them to particular ways of being and acting if they are to succeed as members of their species in creation, do not read more deeply into the natural happenings around them and therefore do not get a wider perspective or interpretation that could help them understand that there is a definite goal towards which their species is to strive, and that there is a point beyond which they would no longer be able to develop themselves in order to become useful fruits, able to participate consciously in the development and expansion of creation. A point beyond which they would have to accept the fruit of the seed that they sowed with the decision not to investigate more deeply the purpose of their being on earth. The fruit of being regarded as useless fruit and corralled into paths and regions where they have to go through the disintegration of the personalities or egos that they have developed or formed in the course of millennia and several earth lives. They do not therefore seek wider interpretations of the happenings around them and thus do not find them either. They remain bound to looking at everything and every happening through the same lens as they had always previously done, thus sealing their fate through reacting in ways that continue to form for them more closed and narrow worlds, just as they desired through their inner attitudes. Those in the other camp, the ones who feel that there are signs in the happenings of the present day that speak urgently of the foretold end of time or day of final judgment, feel the need to hold on even more tightly to their interpretations of the admonitions and the happenings, because they feel that they are at the battlefront, at which they have to steadfastly hold their ground lest they fall prey to the pull of the darkness at the final hour. They do not allow themselves the opportunities of personal growth in their understandings of the workings of the laws of creation, the laws of nature that logically bring about the happenings that they seek to interpret. They do not discover the streams of currents that carry with them recognitions that lead to spiritual growth and expansion, which come along personal paths of experiencing the workings of the laws of creation. The expansion and growth of the spirit of man alone allows him to see more broadly and to rightly interpret the happenings around him. The right seeing and interpretation lead to the right reactions, and thus to the emergence from man or the transmission through him of currents that build upwards. Limited perceptions cause men to interpret and react wrongly to the happenings around them because they do not see the whole happening and cannot therefore accurately read the working out of the logic inherent in the laws of creation. Wherever logic is missing, there also is lacking balance and the right foundation for the experiencing of joy and happiness for man. There also lies the germ of collapse sown with the wrong attitude, thinking, speaking and acting, and the accompanying pain and misery. This will come even if the one concerned has the best of intentions, because he would always have to reap the consequences of what he actually does express in his inner attitude, thinking, speaking and acting. And ignorance of the nature of the working of the laws of creation, the universe, which is the same as non-observance of them, must yield corresponding fruit for the one concerned. Narrow-mindedness always leads to and manifests itself in the form of limited perception. This also takes the form of seeing only what is perceptible by the human intellect and the physical senses of man. In other words, man keeps himself from seeing the true origin and breadth of happenings and limits himself to what he can sense and examine with his physical tools and implements. He makes himself incapable of perceiving the happenings beyond what is earthly and of the earth. He limits himself to a definite space and time. This growth limitation cannot allow him to see logic and lawfulness. He would always only see in part in this way and cannot experience the joy-instilling effect of lawfulness, justice and balance. He cannot come to the point of a full understanding of what lies within his capacity to understand, and the not knowing, which always comes with a particular kind of pressure, keeps him fearful, anxious, narrow-minded, with thoughts of narrow self-interest, envious and vulnerable to many other similar faults, weaknesses or base attributes. He would then not succeed in preparing himself adequately for the final judgment, which actually does go on in the moments of his earth life today. The final decision is made one moment at a time because each moment today represents a much longer period of experiencing in the past for the person concerned. Experiences that were acquired in the course of thousands of years can now be lived through again in a few months, as they come back to the persons concerned as unbalanced and unconcluded threads of experiencing, whose cycles come to a complete close only when the one concerned has learned through personal experiencing what that particular thread is to teach him. He needs a lesson in order to complete his development, the development of the personality that he must become if he is to be active and useful in creation. Each moment holds the question, man, how do you stand? Do you stand for the light and life or for the darkness and destruction? For the everyman. His choice is made with the way he addresses that which comes at him in the moment. Whether this is in the way he is attuned within himself, or in his thoughts, his words or his actions. With each moment today he moves more surely in a particular direction, making a reversal and change to another path that much more difficult, because a purifying power surge has now penetrated and taken over the earth and its surroundings, causing all processes of development to speed up tremendously, including the working that brings man the results or fruits of his decision-making, his desiring, whether he is conscious of these or not. This speeding up of the processes at work in the universe, which is accompanied by a more intense binding between homogeneous species, now makes each moment more vital for mankind than any other has been in the past, because a lot now lies in the moment. It is literally now a question of either or for each person each moment. He would continue to find reason to stay in the dark and in the state of not knowing, or he can continue to see and gain recognitions of the ways that the laws of nature work, so that he can see more of the will of his Maker and attune himself more to it, for the development and maturation of the seed that is his spirit, before the end of the period allotted for this development. He can continue to assume that he knows all that he needs to know in this time and for this task, and each moment would give him even more reason to maintain himself on that delusory path, or he can decide that it might be wise to be humble and ask in all humility for guidance in the matter, so that the moments that continue to unfold for him would be ones that would accord with this willingness to receive, with the corresponding consequence of recognitions of what he needs for his expansion, growth and perfection. There would not be a date or a year when it would be announced that the final decision time has come. It has been time to make this final decision for a long time now. The consequences of the numerous decisions that make up this final decision for each person has now brought us all to the present point in our states of being. They are also responsible for the differing attitudes towards this question among mankind, and would be the factor that would separate those who would decide aright from those who would not, the wheat from the chaff. It is up to the individual to decide which it is to be for him.